Hope Nation, welcome back to Breaking Dawn. Now, let's get a sense of the big political developments that I'm sure you will have seen and you will have been keeping a close eye on today, as well as since the week began. Still joined in the studio by a good friend of the show's, Kanye Makubane. Man, you can just pick what you want to speak about. Because everything...
Should we start with Deborah Cox or with the
Eskom,
Denel? Or Denel, or do we speak about, let's talk about, the presidential response to the emails.
Yes.
Because Kusela Diko has, obviously come out and said, the president maintains that he was not directly linked to those, fundraising. And the emails actually show, according to News 24, that Pravin Gordhan was, the key driver of, fundraising for the presidential campaign. And of course, we saw the screen grabs of all those different emails. And many might have thought there would be a bigger reaction all round, but there really hasn't been, which is pretty worrying. I think broadcast media, like you mentioned earlier on, has done, a better job of covering it. And I see that there is something today in the Sowetan where they are covering it. But the question is, who leaked that information and why?
Okay, so for me, I feel like that should be a secondary question. Surely.
No, it matters. Do you know why?
Yeah.
Because what is always the case, and a lot of analysts, someone like Dumsani Tembe says that quite often.
Yes.
Often what we see play out in the public sphere is political battles. Mazi Mashilawa calls them palace politics, right?
Yes.
So what we're seeing is contestation for leadership, for power, for access to resources, right? It actually has very little to do with the public, with you and I, with roads, with sanitation, with health, et cetera, right? So every time there is this kind of thing, it actually matters who it is coming from.
Yeah.
Because it speaks to the power play. Yes, we have a different interest in knowing who funds our president and why did he need almost R500 million for an internal campaign. But we also need to know who is contesting for what. What
I don't
is at
disagree
stake?
at all.
What is the power
important.
play
So why
that's
do you
happening
think it's
here?
a secondary question?
Because I think the primary question, I would even disassociate the president from it and go, okay, fine. Let's say maybe he knew, he didn't know, it's inconsequential. Just for the sake of this argument, right? So let's put that aside.
Right.
Who leaked the emails? Let's put that aside, right? What we do now know, for sure, is that he confirmed that the emails are authentic.
Right.
If the emails are authentic, it means Pravin Gordhan is in charge of his campaign. If Pravin Gordhan is in charge of his campaign funding, right, and fundraising, is this now politics or patronage where you put him in cabinet? That, for me, would be the primary question, right? The secondary question can be, okay, who then leaked that? That, of course, we need to find that out. But for me, those are now the things that become, there's just priorities,
Right.
in my opinion.
But of course it is, in the same way that I remember saying, at least it was expected that Fikile Mbalula would return to cabinet because as head of elections for the governing party, he delivered an election.
Right.
So in some form or another, if not in executive or somewhere, but he was going to end up in the
Remember, cabinet
executive,
posts
right?
in many ways are rewards
Yes,
for hard work
they-
within political parties because they are seen.
The thing, though, with
Yes.
Figile is that it was done in the open, and we knew.
Yeah.
With Pravin Gordhan, we didn't know, or unless you did know, until the emails were leaked, and he confirmed that yesterday those emails were authentic.
Not that I think it would have been a problem if we knew from the start that
But then why wasn't it declared?
Pravin Gordhan was, the chief campaigner for the elections or for his campaign. Because remember, he was not the only person running Cyril Ramaphosa. There were many individuals running. And so there were many campaign leaders. There were many fundraisers. And in many ways, I don't think that was the problem. What I think always becomes the problem is that if Pravin Gordhan was the chief organizer, what's his link to Busasa? Because at the end of the day, that is really what has opened this big can of worms.
It's the cloak and dagger, the secrecy, and the lack of, I suppose, let's call it transparency or declaration. So now then what?
Because it then matters in the matter regarding the remedial action of the public protector and the president. One of the arguments that the public protector's legal counsel is making is the president is protecting the minister, right? And for a long time, people couldn't understand what that meant.
Why would you do that? And also, why would you protect him,
Yes,
right?
So
except
the nature
now
of the
if there is
relationship.
the idea that this is a person that helped deliver an election in whatever form. Yes, we know most of the people in cabinet are related to the tripartite alliance and the governing party in some way. This then gives some kind of credence to the argument that the public protector's office certainly has been making. Whether or not it's relevant to the case, I don't know. But you're right, I think it is significant.
And then one last thing
Yes.
before we go, right? So for me, I always feel like, even in history, when you look at Nixon, how Nixon ended up leaving office with the Watergate matter, because somebody leaked it. If you look at Edward Snowden, right? Illegally leaking information through WikiLeaks. And then you go, oh, wait, but you guys are actually breaking laws, right? Yes, you don't want people to break laws. You don't want information to be gotten in an illegal manner. And you can deal with that secondarily. But once you've got the information, what do you do with it? And that's the question for you now. A very tough one. How would you navigate this whole minefield?
If I was Ramaphosa?
No. Just what are your thoughts? And then you can tell us,
Okay.
Ramaphosa, what you would do.
So number one, there's clearly a mole in Ramaphosa's camp, right? And I then think that is also the start for me of a crack. Remember, we've always spoken about the fact that the top six is not one big unified top six, that there's factions within factions, you know. And what this says to me is that the fight has become so intense that there are no longer any sacred cows, which becomes a little bit dangerous, because if people become more and more desperate, you know, what else are we likely to see? You know, there has to be a point to say, okay, this and no further. Remember, we're dealing with intelligence, we're dealing with classified information. So people may start getting so desperate that they'll start revealing state secrets. And once we get there and the sanctity of the state is compromised, I think we're going to see a lot of dangerous things coming out.
Khanyi, thank you very much. That's political analyst Khanyi Magubane joining us this morning.